Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be going through League of Legends in 2024, ready for the new season which starts in, I think, 2 days time, which will be season 14. I'm a new player for League of Legends myself. I've played for a few months, which is very new. The game's been out for a long time. I'm not very good at the game myself, so I don't pretend to be a pro or give any expert advice. This video is just going to be going through some of the fundamentals that I've had to learn over the few months about how to play the game, how to play correctly, some tips and tricks for new players. So if you're thinking about playing League of Legends this year, take a look at the video and please like and subscribe. Thank you. Okay guys, topic number 1 on the list of things to do and to talk about is starting the game. So you'll download a League of Legends client and it'll look something like this. This is not the homepage, this is the homepage. And it will look a little bit different to mine because you've got your friends list on the right hand side, you've got your level up here, your profile and your points and essence, all this kind of stuff, right? But all this will be kind of zeroed or totally empty because you might be brand new to the game. So the first thing you're going to notice when you're new is that this is going to be level 1. So when you start playing League of Legends, you'll want to obviously click play on the top left hand side. You'll have a couple of different options in here. Alright, so Summoner's Rift, which is this left hand one here. This is the main game of League of Legends. This is the 5v5 full games that you'll see if you look at any of the big streamers, and I'll give you some names for some big streamers so that you can watch some really good videos of proper talented players instead of me as well at the end of the video. So this is your Summoner's Rift 5v5. You can also play an ARAM, which is 5v5. You can also play a Team 5 Tactics or the Arena. So these games are kind of like arcadey games, you know. They're not really like the big sort of competition level 5v5s like this. This is the one like the kind of the pros play that you'll see on TV. There's a couple of different ways to play this. There's now a quick play. It used to be called a blind pick. It's quick play where you can choose your champion before you go into the game, and it'll put you in there with that champ ready. You can have the same champs on 2 different teams in this game mode, and it's the same. It's 5v5 when you play against each other. The second option is a draft pick. This is totally standard, normal 5v5. You've got your champion select and all that kind of stuff at the start as well, but it's what people use as a practice tool. Well, it's kind of. It's the place that most people test out their champs. It doesn't count towards your rank. This is a ranked solo or ranked duo queue. This is the sort of competitive side of League of Legends. It's 5v5 where people choose what champs they want to use and champ select their best champions and the most experienced champions and positions, and they play against each other competitively to win the game and climb the ranks. You can find the ranks online. It's not really much use of me going into it. The bottom one's iron, bronze, silver, gold, and so on. There's lots, and the top one's challenger, but you can see all of these online pretty easy. And then rank flex is also ranked, but you can only go in groups of you can't go in groups of 4, so you can go in groups of 3 and 5. So once you've chosen at the start of these you want your level 1. Until you get to level 30 you'll only be able to play draft and quick play. You won't be able to play rank games until you get to level 30. You'll have lots of time to practice, and it'll put you in a rank after level 30, which it thinks is a good fit for you. Generally, you'll be around the bronze area, and then you'll be able to play your rank games with your friends and go up and down from there. So, part number 2, or topic number 2, is the Summoner's Rift. This is the map at what it looks like. So you can do your draft games and you get your practice and you play your different positions. I'll go through those positions as well. And then you get to level 30 and then you want to play some ranked games, or you can continue playing draft games. But you need to kind of know how to play the game and how the map works, right? So this is the Summoner's Rift map. This is on the League of Legends wiki. You have a red side and a blue side. Now, currently, this is the Season 13 map. The Season 14 map is a little bit different. This will be out in a couple of days. So I'll just talk about this one for now, and I'll mention what the differences are for the new map. and you can check that out when it comes out. So you have a red side, you have a blue side. You can start on either side. It's random. You have a top lane this side. You have a bottom lane this side. You have a middle lane here. 3 lanes. You also have these areas on each side. A blue jungle, it's called, and a red jungle. Okay, so you also then have an area here and an area here for large NPC monsters, which are objectives. Right? So generally, we'll go through these sections one by one, I think. So top lane. This is the lane where most people will play a bruiser type character or a fighter / tank character, champion, I should say. It's a very, very difficult lane. It's a 1v1 lane, and like I said, most people will play bruisers, but some people will try and counter pick you, which means that they'll try and pick a champ that is going to have some sort of advantage over you. So generally bruisers are melee champions, and somebody might pick like a Vayne, which is a ranged champ that does true damage, which you won't need to worry about too much yet. It's just a very difficult matchup because they can kind of kite you. Kiting means that they can come kind of bait you in a little bit to go near. You start running towards them, they shoot you a bit, and then you start running away because you're losing damage, and they run back to you and do more damage. Then you try and run towards them to hit them, and they move back. So it's a very tough lane. It could be tank v tank, it could be bruiser v bruiser, range v bruiser, but it's generally the area that they kind of get left alone the most in the game, I would say, this tank section, or this top lane. It's always pretty much a 1v1 situation here. You will get some jungle ganks, but generally the jungle ganks, which I'll talk about what a gank is, will be more on this bottom lane and some in the mid lane, but more rarely will it come up the top lane, but you will see them. This lane is a little bit wider as well. The gap between this top section of the river here and the outer section is quite wide. So there's quite a lot of room to maneuver around. It's quite a long lane, as they would say. So you can get run down easy, or chase someone up easy, depending on what you're using. Then you've got your mid lane. Generally in mid lane, you're going to be using your crit type melee champs, so your kind of squishier, higher damage melee champs, or your assassins, which is kind of the same principle, just a little bit different. But I would say most people who play this lane are mage champs, right? So they're mage users. It's a very short lane, tower between tower, compared to this tower between tower on the top lane. And it's, like I said, generally for mage users. You can be ganked from either side, so it's you need to be really careful playing it. I would say generally this lane is for more experienced people. I wouldn't recommend anybody starts here. I also actually wouldn't recommend anybody starts top. I've played top many times. It's extremely difficult, and if you lose 1 or 2 times or die 1 or 2 times, you're gonna have a really bad time. Similar with mid, but you can be saved a little bit more with mid because it's easier to kind of gank and your whole team can kind of play around this lane as the center of the map, so you can be saved a little bit in mid. Then you've got your bot lane, but you've got 2 people in the bot lane. Mid is a 1v1 again, just like the top. In the bot lane, there's 2 people. You've got what we call an ADC, which stands for attack damage carry. Now, you don't have to worry about too much about what that means. Attack damage is just a type of damage in the game. There's attack damage and ability power. So AP and AD, you'll see those terms being used a lot. You can technically use an APC, an AP carry on this lane, but generally you'll see ADCs. They are then alongside someone who plays a support champion. So the support champ is there to make sure that the ADC stays alive and what we call gets fed. Now, getting fed in League of Legends means that you get lots of kills and lots of CS and lots of money. I go through CS as well. Lots of money, and you get lots of items, and you get really strong, and you're higher level, and you just obliterate the other team. Okay, so the whole idea of this bottom lane is for the support to help and support the ADC to get as fed as they possibly can. Okay, so this is a slightly longer lane again than the mid lane. The mid lane will fight 1-on-1, top will fight 1-on-1. These guys fight 2-on-2, so it's 2 people either side. So you have an ADC either side and a support either side. Then you'll have what my favourite role is the jungle player, or the jungler, as they call. Now, the jungler will have his own jungle, or her own jungle, and the enemy jungler will have his own jungle or her own jungle. What you'll do in that jungle is you'll go all these little sections here. These are big objectives, so large monsters, like large objectives. This one's a Rift Herald to start, then it's a Baron, but we can talk more on that later. This one's dragons. These objectives gives you buffs in the game, so like they give you an incentive to do them, and they can really change the flow of the game. You can win games off them easy. These little ones here in the jungle are just large jungle monsters or jungle camps. Okay, so only the jungler should really be in these jungles killing the camps. And I'll talk about why you kill things, and I'll talk about what you do in lane a little bit after this section, but just for now, just to give you the basis of the map. So the jungler, so you'll have your top laner here, your jungler will maybe be in this section or this section, then you'll have your mid laner, then you'll have your 2 bottom laners on either side. Now, the laners' objectives, predominantly in the game, is to fight each other and try and take these other objectives, like towers. The whole point of the game is to get to the enemy nexus and destroy it. So if you're 1v1 in lane, you number 1 want to kill as many minions as you can, and I'll talk about why. Number 2, you want to kill the enemy player as much as you can, ideally 1-on-1, because that will give you a very big advantage. And thirdly, you want to take their turrets or their objectives. You want to get all the way to the end, do your bit by taking your inhibitor. Doesn't always work that one person takes it, you do it as a team, but generally that's what you're supposed to do, and take the final 2 turrets and take the nexus, and then you win the game. So the better you do in your lanes, the easier it is to win the game. Sounds very easy, right? But it's not. And then generally you'll have maybe one lane doing well, one lane not doing very well, middle lane maybe equal. The jungler's job then is to basically free roam the map. So laners will try and stay in their lanes as much as they can until a higher level in the game, and then they'll go team fight, and you'll all team fight. Maybe your top laner will stay on its own and kind of what we call split push on their own, because they're very strong and they can push on them. The jungler's job is to cause mayhem, to cause a shitstorm. Alright, so as a jungler, what you want to be doing is ganking your lanes. Okay, now ganking is the term used in League of Legends for invading a lane or messing someone up. So if I am a jungler and I'm on the red side and I'm doing my blue buff, which is here, and the enemy team is pushed up here, they're fighting my team, they've maybe killed someone, he's waiting to respawn, and they're under my turret here, I can come through this little river section around here and gank from behind. Obviously, if they're not paying attention, they haven't got any wards in these bushes. We can talk about wards, but they basically just show where people are. That's something that you'll learn very quickly. They're free at the start of the game. You can put them down for a certain amount of time, and they can show where people are. So if it's not warded, I can come behind them and we can kill them. And it's a 3v2 situation rather than a 2v2. Same with mid, because it's 1v1. Same with top, it's 1v1. If I gank at a good time, it'll be myself and my ally versus the enemy top laner. And hopefully if they're pushed up and aggressive, I can sneak behind them again in river. So that is the general outlook of the map itself and how the game generally plays. Okay, so the next topic is CS. Alright, so CS is, I don't even know what it stands for. I don't even know what the word means, or what the acronym stands for. But basically, CS is your gold. It's your gold in the game, all right? So you can earn money 2 ways in League of Legends. You can get money from your minions, which will be in every lane. You can also, if you're a jungler, get your money from jungle camps. You can get the most money from killing the enemy players, right? So there's a few different ways of doing it. For now, we're just going to talk about CS. Now, to get CS, you have to kill the minion. But if you don't hit the minion on its last hit, you will not get the CS or the gold for the kill. So if you do 90% of the damage to the minion and someone else gets the very last hit, even though they've only done hardly any of it, they will get the CS for that. Okay, so the more CS you have, the better. So not only do you have to fight your enemy laner in the lane, and not only do you have to kill the minions, you have to make sure that you get the last hits on the minions. So it's no good going guns blazing, trying to hit everything as fast as you can, because your minions will also be shooting the other minions, and if you don't get the timing perfectly, then you're not going to get the point. So at the start of the game, I think it's 6v6 on the first wave. 6 minions, you got 2v2, let's look at bot lane like in the video. And you want to try and get the last hits. If you get all of them, you get 6, you'll get, I think it works out, there's 12 last hits will be the same as a kill on an enemy player. So that's how important it is, because you'll see a lot of people trying to desperately go for kills, not being successful, especially early game when nobody really does that much damage and you've only got 1 or 2 skills available because you have to unlock them on each level up. So you want to really prioritize, specifically at the start of the game and mostly throughout the game, of getting the last hits on the minions, and that's what CS is. And you'll be able to check it through the tab button. You can see the CS next to your name, and the more the better. And that's something that you really want to practice, and it's something that you really want to maybe watch some videos on YouTube, on tutorials. But as you can see in the video that we've been watching whilst I've been talking about this is me and my friend as we're playing the bot lane, and you can see as Caitlyn, who is the ADC, and Heimerdinger as the support, every one of those minions on the red side, he's trying to get the last hits. Okay, so next topic. What do we want to do when we got gold in CS? So once we've got certain amounts of CS throughout the game, or any period that we want to really, we can press B, which is a teleport function. It takes you back to the base, and when you're in the fountain section, the very back base, there's a little shop next to you. To open that, you can press P, and you can buy items that you want to use. Now, don't worry too much at the start when you start playing this game about what items to use. The game will actually recommend under the recommended section of the tab, which you can see on the screen. Well, I'll put some footage up about what it looks like to buy. On the recommended section, you can see what items will go well with the champion that you're using. Okay, so you'll be able to you can't really go wrong if you follow the recommended items, and that's based on, I think, what most people will use in the game. And it'll tell you why it's good and what it does, whether it's anti-tank or armor or whatever. So, say a piece of an item that you want is 3,300 CS. Okay. So at the start of the game, like I said, you kill a minion wave, and it'll give you, say you kill 12 minions in 2 waves, and that'll give you something like maybe 300 gold. Now, 300 gold is not going to be too much. It's not going to be able to get you the item, but items are made up of smaller items, and each little smaller item will give you bonuses until you get to the end of the item. You complete the item, and you'll get an extra bonus on top for completing the item, and complete items have different unique properties that will help you play. Now, you don't want to just stay in your lane until you collect the full 3,300, because what your enemy is going to do is, after, say, intervals of maybe 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, they will then push their wave into you, and then where you have to try and fight it out of the turret, because the turret will kill the minions, and then you will lose the CS, because, like I said, remember, you need to get the last hit. So if the turret kills them, you don't get the last hits. So what the enemy team will do is they'll try and push their minions under your turret, so that your turret deletes them, so they don't get the CS. And then they'll recall, they'll teleport, press B in a bush, hidden, and they'll go back to their spawn as they found it, and then they will buy incremental items and come back. So if you were waiting in your lane with no items because you haven't bought anything yet, they go back, they buy you some incremental items, small parts of a bigger item, and get those bonuses. When they come back, they're going to be way stronger than you. So what you want to do is either you push it into their turret, or if they push it into your turret, you kill as many as you can. Then if they're still not there, you push it into theirs, and then you come back, and then you recall back, buy what you can, and then come back to lane. It's not recommended. Don't worry too much about this at the start. If you're a new player, you're really not going to kind of understand how this works really well. But if you can kind of pick some of this up, you're better off just playing at the start. But the main thing is to just remember that if you have some gold, You can always click P, even when you're in the lane, to check what you can buy. I wouldn't recommend doing it too often because you might die by not seeing what you're doing or concentrating. But you can't buy it unless you go back to the spawn. Okay, so you can check what you need. I would recommend going back often, buying as much as you can, and then coming back to the lane. Try not to do it when the minions are either in the middle of the lane or your side under the turret, because like I said, you'll lose those minions. And we don't want to be doing that. We want to kill as many minions as we can to get the experience and the CS. Now, you have 6 slots that you can buy items for, and you can see that at the bottom of the screen on the HUD, just above the little coin section. You want to try and create something called a build. And like I said, you'll get recommended builds in the shop anyway, so you can't really go wrong. In the new season, which will be out in a few days, you won't have to worry about this item I'm about to say, which is a mythic item, which is like a main legendary item that will kind of have an effect on the other items as well. So you don't have to worry about that anyway, because the new season won't have those. So you can kind of buy whatever you want. If there's 6 recommended items, you can just buy those 6 and you really can't go wrong. When you do buy items, obviously the more you get, the stronger you are. So if you get ahead, then you'll have an advantage. You'll have more gold, you'll have more kills, you'll have more items, you'll be even stronger then in your next fights. But let's not get complacent and go silly and then commit to fights that you can't win, even though you're stronger, because you'll just give that gold away as a shutdown, they call it, because the more kills you get, the more you're worth if you don't die every 2 seconds. So try and get an advantage on the enemy team, try and get loads of items, try and get strong, and then play safe. Right? Dying in League of Legends is the worst. Okay, so we want a full build as soon as possible. Now in jungle, the CSing is different. So the jungler will kill the jungle camps throughout the game, and that's how we will get the CS. So what you don't want to do as a laner, you do not want to kill your teammate who's a jungler, his camps or her camps. You can kill the enemy ones, that's fine, it takes the gold off them, right? But you don't want to kill yours, because that's the only way that they can really get their CS, particularly for most of the game. And they won't really touch your minions, or as little as they possibly can, and you shouldn't touch their monsters, and you should only do that as little as you can as well. They will sometimes maybe ping you into the jungle. There's things called buffs in there. Later in the game, anybody can get access to the buffs. So they may kill something, call you over to get the buff, which will help you. And obviously that you all kill the main objectives together, which was the Rift Herald, the Dragon, and the Baron. But the jungler will have its own CS. I wouldn't recommend going jungle anyway until you know the game much better, because it's a very complicated position. You can ruin the game completely, and you definitely will instantly lose the game if you're really inexperienced and you have no idea how to jungle, and you don't gank correctly and you don't CS correctly. You won't enjoy. So I would highly recommend not going jungle at the moment, but that's how they get the CS. I would recommend, like I said, to go bot lane. So if you're in the lane, you're going to have things called fights, obviously, right? So we'll forget about the minions. We've talked about those. We talked about the CS of those. The first type of fight you're going to have is a solo fight. So if you're top lane, you're mid lane, you're going to have a 1v1 fight. No doubt. Even a jungler will have a 1v1 fight. They might have an enemy jungler invade their jungle, or they may invade the enemy jungle to try and take some camps and get the other person behind, and you'll have 1v1 fights. These fights are very hard. You have to really know your champ and the kit. You can't just bash buttons. I mean, you can at the start if everybody's a beginner and you just kind of all bash buttons, and you might just be lucky. But you want to try and learn the kit and learn the technique, or the right way of using the combos, or maybe stunning them first, or any sort of CC, jump in, attacking with like a big poke or like an ultimate ability, that kind of stuff. If you want to play around with them, you can read them. Every champ only has 4 skills that you can use, so it's not rocket science to learn them. And once you get a hang of the game, you can pretty much play any champ, because it's quite easy to pick up how to do that, even though all of the kits, as we call them, the kit is the full type of skills and a passive skill. They're all different, but they kind of, you just kind of work out how to do it. It becomes sort of second nature to switch between champions. You'll have your favorite champions, but still. So your solo fights, they're going to be 1v1. The advantages in solo fights: having more HP, being a higher level, because as you get up levels, regardless of items, you'll be stronger anyway. Having items, or the more items you have, the stronger you are. And then there's another point which a lot of people don't realise or don't think about too much, in especially the beginner stage, is that when to do a solo fight. So if you're in the lane and you've been pushing your wave of minions, that is, into them, the enemy, and you're 1v1, so you're top, and you've been killing all their minions because they've been standing back a little bit because they want to play safe, and then you build up a big wave of minions because you've killed all of theirs, so they haven't killed yours. Say they've got 1 or 2 minions left and you've built up a massive one of like 12. If they try and fight you at that point, what happens is when you fight the other person in the lane, the enemy minions will start hitting you. So if that person who had 2 minions tried to fight a person with 12 minions, regardless if they're stronger or not, depending on how stronger they are, to be honest, all of those minions will then attack that person and they'll lose a lot more HP. So the main thing about learning when to 1v1 when you're new to the game is knowing when to go in to fight your enemy, where you actually have a proper advantage, and you're not going to cancel out that advantage maybe by taking damage of 12 minions alongside the other person, because believe me, it does more damage than you think. So that's a solo fight. If you can get solo kills on your own in lane, your whole team is going to love you. Your enemy jungler, your teammate jungler is going to love you as well, because he doesn't need to gank, doesn't need to waste his time doing it. He can help the other lanes, or she. And it's just really good. Okay. Now, if you die solo lots of times, your team is going to hate you, all right? Because you're giving a lot of money away, you're dying on your own all the time, so you obviously don't know what you're doing, and you're committing. And when you die, you can get frustrated, and you nearly killed them, but then you died, and you rush back to your lane, and you try and kill them again, but you just kind of, they've got a big wave, you kind of commit, they still end up killing you because they've got a massive wave and a little bit of HP left, and they're a little bit stronger. Maybe they've leveled up when you've gone back, or they bought an item and teleported back, and you die again, then you die twice, then you die 3 times, then you just fall behind, and then your lane is over. And if you're a top laner, for example, and you get absolutely steamrolled, your team is really going to struggle without you, and you most likely won't win the game. So it's very important. Next part is about team fights. Now, team fights are going to be a little bit different. So generally, people will stay in their lanes until, I would say, level 10 to 12. After level 10 to 12, you'll start moving around the map a little bit more. Doesn't mean you can completely neglect the lane that you've come out of. You'll still need to go back and kill the minions there, make sure the towers don't go and take enemy towers, of course. But generally around that level, most people will be around the map, helping each other, doing team fights. Now, the team fights are 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s, 5v5s, and you obviously want to ideally wipe out the enemy team, because when the enemy team dies, they have a respawn timer. The further into the game it goes, the longer the respawn timer is, and during that time you can take dragons, you can take barons, they give you the buffs, you can take the turrets, and ideally at the end you can win the game. So big team fights are super important. At the start as a new player, I would just recommend not overcommitting in big team fights. So if there's a big 5v5 and there's a couple of people fighting, don't just run into the middle of it and spam all of your buttons, because a better player is going to know exactly what to do and is going to be able to outplay you massively. Okay, so if you just run in and somebody's lurking on the outskirts, or they're hidden in the bush and you can't really see them, they might throw a CC out, stun you, drop something huge on your head. The other teammates might jump in at that point because you're CC'd, crowd controlled. And then you die, and then all of a sudden it's a 4v5, and then they've got an advantage, then someone else dies, then your whole team's wiped before you know it, and it's kind of your fault because you went in first. So the number one thing you want to do in team fights is always be aware of the map. Is everybody in vision 5v5? Is somebody missing? If there's somebody missing on the enemy team, and you're in the middle of the map in a river or something, they could be anywhere. They could be behind you, they could be above you, they could be in bushes. If you haven't got wards down, they could be anywhere. So be really careful about where you commit to a fight, Like if you're in mid and everybody can see each other and it's a 5v5, it's going to be a bit of a free-for-all and a bit of a scrap, especially low elo. But the number one tip I would say is to have awareness of where people are. Have awareness of your abilities. Make sure all your abilities are up for a start. So if I've just used my ultimate 10 seconds ago on somebody in a lane, and then I'm going to team fight in the river, I haven't got my ultimate, so I'm already at a disadvantage. So I'm probably going to either ping my team to not commit to the fight, or play as a really safe backliner and just shoot some abilities out without having to fully commit, because I know I'm probably not going to do very well because I haven't got my ultimate ability, which is your fourth ability, which is R, in the box at the bottom of the screen, which you can see on the gameplay. So team fights, you want to get a total wipeout, ideally at the end, and not die and stupidly commit. Next thing we want to do are objectives. Now, the objectives are mainly for the jungler to try and coordinate and to look after, but it's everybody on the team's responsibility to commit to get them done, because getting them done gives your team a massive advantage. So before 20 minutes to start, so 1 to 20 minutes, after a few minutes, the top of the screen, which we said earlier, the Rift Herald will spawn. Now, you want to get the Rift Herald as a jungler, because the Rift Herald is like a kind of massive bowling ball, kind of battering ram. So once you kill it, you pick up its eye as a jungler, and then you can use the eye in the same slot as your wards to drop into a lane, and it'll barge into the turret, giving you gold in the process by taking plates and moving your team further up the lane, giving you an advantage. To get the Rift Herald, generally, your jungler won't just go into the middle of the map and just fight it itself on its own whilst everybody's in lane, because it's very risky. If he takes it down to half HP and it's done damage to him, he's vulnerable, or she is vulnerable, and the laners can then come in and take advantage of that, kill it, then finish off the Rift Herald, and then take it. So you've kind of wasted all that time, done the hard work, and then you've just had it stolen from you, and that's going to leave a real bitter taste in your mouth. Had it done to me loads of times. So what you want to do, or what you need to be aware of if you're playing a lane when the jungler is trying to do it, generally the jungler will only go to the Rift Herald if you have lane prio. This is the term that was used. So lane prio means that you've got lane priority. It means that you're pushed up in your lane, so the enemy is trying to be really defensive under their tower, so they're not going to be able to be very comfortable and come and play at the Rift Herald, or when you've killed the enemy laner, so that the jungler can kind of safely go and take it. So if my top lane and my middle lane have both just had a kill, and the enemy is respawned, so they're not even at the base, they're dead, they're not even respawned, and I can't see the enemy jungler, or the enemy jungler might be down in the bottom lane, I'm going to go to the Rift Herald. I'm going to take the Rift Herald. The top laner might come and even help me do it. It does split a little bit of the gold with them if they do, but it doesn't matter. Now, in a couple of days' time, this is going to change slightly though. So there's going to be void bugs, but you don't need to go into this too much. You'll find out what these are anyway when the new season starts. But it's kind of the same principle. It'll be the same way that you obtain them, and they just do a little bit something different as a buff. I think they help you. I think they increase your turret damage that you do to turrets or something like that. But it's the kind of same objective. Down the bottom side of the map, you'll have your dragons. Each dragon, you can get a total of 4 dragons, normal dragons, and you can, they give you buffs. They give you AD, they give you AP, they give you speed, they give you tenacity, they give you, which stops you from being CC or helps you get out of CC. They give you speed ups, loads of different buffs that you have. So you want to take those as well. And it's the same process. If someone dies and you've pushed up and it's safe, then you'll take it. And then you can have an option for what we call an Elder Dragon or Dragon Soul, which is once you've got a number of them, you get higher buffs. And Soul is obviously a massive, massive buff after having 4 dragons, and that can really change the game for you as well. So all these objectives are something that you want to prioritize. So basically, as a new player, if your jungler is pinging on the map for one of these objectives, assess the situation yourself, because you can't rely on your jungler for everything or to make the right decisions, because believe it or not, they don't a lot of the time. Make sure that you've got priority in your lane. Make sure that there's certain people who may be dead and you've got an advantage. Make sure nobody else is lingering around the dragon. Check for any wards, and then you can go to the fight with them as well. But be aware of the pings for the objectives. At the top side then, after 20 minutes, you've got Baron Nashor, which is a big sort of dragon-y looking thing with fangs. This gives you another buff, and it lets you teleport back to base quicker, and it gives you power-ups to your minions, and it's easier to invade the enemy nexus when this is up. So this is a really important late-game buff that people use to finish the game, basically. But there's usually big fights around these objectives, so you need to have some awareness for them. So, before we get into all of the game in the beginning anyway, one of the most important and fun things about the game is your champions. There's a lot of different champions, and at the start of a draft game or a ranked game, you need to select your champion that you want to use. Everybody's got their favourites, everybody uses different ones, some people use the same ones. You can't use the same ones in each game on the other teams, but some people use the same one every game, that kind of thing. They become what we call a one-trick pony, you know, so they use the same champ over and over and over and over and over, gain loads of mastery points, they become very good at using it, and they're very difficult to play against because they know the champions are out. Some other people like to play different champs all the time, and some people maybe just like to have a pool of 3, 4, 5 that they rotate through depending on what the other enemy team chooses. So first of all, you've got that champ select section. Secondly, there are certain champs that are better at certain lanes. Like I said, you've got your ADCs, who are like marksmen. You've got your mid laners, which are generally mages. You've got your top laners, generally bruisers. Your supports, generally quite tanky and have a lot of utility and ability to support pulls, knockups, that kind of slows, stuns, that kind of thing. So when you do go on champ select, and you can see in some of the footage here, there will be a little tabs along the top section of where you get to choose your champion, and it'll recommend champions for each section. So if you're new, you can just, and you want to play top lane, you can click on top, it'll give you a big section of top champs, and you can just play through them. You're in draft, you're level 1 to 30, you don't have to worry about winning or losing your rank. Just play the game however you want to play it. Don't care if people flame you, because the community can be quite toxic. Ignore them. Just choose whatever champ you want to use as a top laner, play with them and see if you like them, and then if you don't like it, change to another one in a different game and play with that one. By the time you do get level 30, you will have a lane that you prefer, or jungle if you feel comfortable there. And you'll have some champs that you really like, and those are the ones that you probably want to use for the foreseeable future until you're a couple of months into the game and you feel comfortable swapping, changing lanes, changing champs, changing style, whatever. You also want to counter pick the enemy champions. Again, at the start, don't worry too much, just play whatever you want to play what's most fun to you. But for example, some people will pick a ranged champion against a melee champion on top lane, thinking that they can get the advantage, and a lot of the time, if you're new, they're gonna beat you to live in hell. Alright, but it's just part of the game. The disadvantage that they will have is that they will not have a tanky champ or bruiser champ later in the game, and you need those champions. You know, they're really helpful. They can split push, they can do turrets, they can tag fights. So that person on the other team is not going to be able to do that. They will be fed, they will have a lot of kills and items, they'll be strong and they'll do a lot of damage, but they won't have that ability. So sometimes it doesn't always work out. Some champions are really good early game, some champions are good mid game, some champions scale, we call it, throughout the whole game as the levels and items. Some scale very strong throughout the game, but they may be really shit and weak at the start of the game. So it doesn't necessarily always mean that you're going to be coming out worse if you get counter-picked early game. You'll come to notice some of these champs and what you prefer. Obviously, there's loads of other way more experienced streamers and content creators on YouTube that will have loads of advice on what champs are good or not. Some of my favourite creators are Swag. So Zwag's website, I think, is zwag.gg. If you want that, I'm just plugging that in there for him as well because I like him. And he's got 2 channels. He's got Zwag Zero. He's got 3, I think, actually. He's got Zwag 2, Swag Zeraf, and TC Zwag. He plays a variety of champions. Plays different champs every single day, maybe twice a day, 2-3 times a day. Probably plays a different champ every single game, or every couple of games. He shows a really wide variety of champions used. He plays in different areas. Sometimes, but predominantly he'll play the mid lane, but he will maybe play jungle sometimes or top lane. And he'll be able to show you how the kit works, and he'll build really funky builds, and it's really fun because he's really good at the game, and he shows you how these champs work really well. He's entertaining, he's pretty level-headed, he's pretty cool. He doesn't rage or anything like that, so I'd highly recommend watching him. If you want to watch a top laner, I would recommend Davey-X3. He's extremely good. These guys are all sort of challenger standard anyway, or very high level standard anyway. Davey's a very good top laner. He plays different champions every day, and he talks through how he plays the game very well. So that as well for me is pure entertainment. Davey will explain the fundamentals of the game very well, and he'll explain to you how the lane phase works, how the wave works, why he's buying things, how he's bought that, why he's picked that champion, all that kind of stuff, how he's moving around the map. I've learned a lot of stuff from him. And then junglers, I watch King Sticks. He's exactly the same. He's very informative about how to play the game and how to do certain things, and why he's doing it, what he's doing, why he's building, how the champ works, the kit, all that kind of stuff. Extremely good player as well. So recommend watching those guys when you come to decide on what lane you want to play and how to play the game and choosing your champ. So we've done all the sort of fundamentals of it. Objectives, lanes, last hitting, CSing, the rift in general, level 1 to 30, champ select. The next thing you want to do is just practice the game, just play the game. Go in your draft games with your friends and just choose champions, play, get some time under your belt, choose your lanes that you want to play, choose your different champions. You're going to die, you're going to get some kills, hopefully you enjoy the game. But you just keep doing it and keep practicing, and I promise you, if you've never played this game before, it'll feel horrendous to start. I mean, I remember going through the phase of absolutely hating the game, but being addicted to it, because I couldn't win lane at all, full stop, never won a lane, lost every single lane, every single game, nearly quit. And then I swapped lanes, and I preferred that lane a little bit better, and then I played a little bit more, learned a bit more fundamentals, started watching these guys on YouTube and understanding the game. Then, moved lane again, and then I moved into jungle, and now I'm really enjoying the game. I'm definitely not an expert, I'm definitely not a high elo standard, but I know the fundamentals, and I enjoy the game, and I play with friends, and I like to win. If I can win, I like to win. I don't like to lose. So just do that until you're ready. And hopefully you have a really good time.